try to blow my mind. I don't care.
Peace, Black family, and Sac Passe. Thank you for joining me on another episode of After the Revolution. Today, we will be discussing one of my favorite characters from the Haitian Revolution, and that is none other than Henri Christophe. Now, his legend is unmatched. Some of the stories that I've read about Henri Christophe are hilarious. Okay, this man's personality is unmatched, and that's why he is one of my favorite characters or historical figures during the Haitian Revolution. Henri Christophe was born on the island of Grenada in 1767. And during his adolescent years, he was actually taken to the island of Haiti for some specific reason, maybe to punish his mother or to separate him from his father. Historians don't really know why. But in his adolescent years, he was taken to Haiti. Fortunately or unfortunately, also in his teenage years, he actually served in the American Revolution on the side of the United States. He was sent to the United States by his slave master to serve in the Revolution. And so Henri Christophe actually was a part of the siege of Savannah. It's said that he was actually wounded in battle. After the American Revolution, he returned back to Haiti, where he picked up odd jobs as being like a brick mason, a stable boy, and also a caddy. And a funny story goes that when he was actually a caddy, when he was about 18 or 20, two slave masters were playing golf or playing some type of sport, and one of them were really drunk, and they actually forgot the score. And so Henri Christophe went to correct one of the slave masters, and the slave master hauled off and slapped him in the mouth for correcting him. And so about 20 years later, when the Haitian Revolution popped off, it was said to Henri Christophe that the old slave owner, by some chance, by some miracle, actually survived the Haitian Revolution and was still staying in Haiti. So Henri Christophe found out this information. One day he says, you know what? I'm going to pay him a visit. So he walks off from his castle, his palace, Sans Souci, in the middle of the night and walks 20 miles into the next city, knocks on the door of the former slave master, calls him outside, and then they begin to fight to the death. So when I say Henri Christophe is a very interesting character, he kills the slave master, then walks 20 miles back to Sans Souci and goes to sleep. One thing Henri Christophe was known for doing during the Haitian Revolution was burning cities to the ground. Henri Christophe actually burnt Cap Haitian down at least 2 times. Okay, actually this flag right here is the flag of Henri Christophe, and it says, "From ashes we rise." Now, unfortunately, it's written in Latin, but that's what it stands for. From ashes we rise, and as you can see, it has the phoenix here in the middle. But Henri Christophe was known for burning down a city at the drop of a dime. There's a story that goes that Leclerc was coming on an expedition to somehow, put the Africans on the island back into slavery. And Toussaint had told Henri Christophe to not let him dock. Do not let Leclerc dock, keep him out on the water. And so Leclerc shot it from a distance. He said, "Hey, we're coming in. Let us come in." And Henri Christophe said, "If your profane foot tries to step foot on this soil, I will burn this city to the ground." And so Leclerc kept on coming in, and by the time he blinked, Cap Haitian was on fire, and Henri Christophe and his soldiers were running off into the mountains. I mean, this dude did not play. There's stories of Englishmen during the time of his reign when he was actually a king that were very disrespectful at the port. And Henri Christophe was a really, really big dude. He was said to be 6'8" or 6'9". And so they got word of some drunk Englishmen coming into the port. Henri Christophe came down from his palace, drove all the way to Cap Haitian, and then it said that he picked one of the Englishmen up by one leg and held him up off the ground and then dropped him. I mean, this dude was a big dude and very intelligent too. Being the fact that he came from Grenada, he actually didn't speak Creole when he first came to, Haiti. Remember, Grenada was ran by the English. And so he actually spoke English first, learned Creole, right? And so this brother was very, very intelligent. A lot of times we like to say things like, well, people were illiterate at that time period, but that's not the case. Just to touch on how intelligent this brother was, Rochambeau, right? Rochambeau had called Henri Christophe for a meeting one night. And Henri Christophe actually learned from Toussaint's mistake. A lot of people don't know that Toussaint actually didn't get to see the Haitian Revolution transpire. He was captured and taken to France and died in a French prison, right? 2 years prior to independence. And that was ruse, obviously. They tricked him. They said they wanted to have a meeting with him. And then obviously they captured him and took him to France. Henri Christophe would not fall for that, though. So when Leclerc, Rochambeau, and them called him for a meeting, he said, sure, I'll come. He showed up to the meeting with 3,000 soldiers and surrounded the building. Barged his way in and said, hey, what y'all want to talk about? Ain't gonna be no kidnapping today. I got 3,000 soldiers outside. If y'all even lay a hand on my head, we will burn this whole bitch down. There is not gonna be any kidnapping today. So we also must give credit where credit is due. Although Dessalines was the first architect of the Citadel, it was actually Henri Christophe who put the plans into play. So when Jean-Jacques Dessalines was assassinated by Alexander Pétion and the rest of the mulattoes, it was Henri Christophe who decided to pick up the plans of Dessalines and continue them. So he built the Citadel and he built the Sans-Souci Palace in Cap Haitian or Mayotte, right? And so Alexander Pétion, the mulatto leader, ended up becoming Henri Christophe's greatest rival. So you had one kingdom in the north, which was ran by Henri Christophe, and then you had a democracy, a so-called democracy, in the south, ran by Alexander Pétion. So Haiti was actually split into two parts, right? You had the black and red in the north, and you had the blue and red in the south. And so the north was thriving. I mean, Henri Christophe, yes, he worked the people extremely to the core, but they were thriving economically. They had free school, education. You had people like Prince Saunders, who was an African American. You had lots of African Americans under the tutelage of Henri Christophe, who actually came to Haiti. Like, he put out a straight edict. And again, some of these things he followed from what Dessalines was doing. But he put out an edict saying, look, any African American that wants to come here and be free, come on, baby, we got you. And that is exactly what he did. And this is why you have people like Prince Saunders, who became kind of like his second in command. And, Prince Saunders built schools in Haiti, and, he wrote letters about Haiti and, encouraged other African Americans to come. Another quick little story about the rivalry between Henri Christophe and Alexander Pétion. So one day, Alexander Pétion, is upset. He's mad at Christophe because they just had a battle, and he ended up losing. And he says, man, if you would have died in the American Revolution, you wouldn't be a pain in my butt. So, Alexander Pétion signs his names and he sends it off to Henri Christophe. And so Henri Christophe reads the letter and he sits down at his desk and he writes his letter and he sends it back to Alexander Pétion. And the letter says, if your mother had the decency to keep French white men out of her bed, then you wouldn't be a pain in my butt. I'm telling you, this man was hilarious, man. He was hilarious. And I believe that if he had more time in power, with his influence and his economical strategies and his work intent, Haiti possibly could have flourished a lot more. But then again, you had Alexander Pétion, who was in the South, who was trying to model Haiti after France. You know, he was trying to lighten up the population and you know, bring all that French stuff to Haiti. But you know, again, there are some great books you can also read about Henri Christophe. Of course, some of them are written by Europeans, but the information nonetheless is still good. So you have this book right here, King of Haiti, Christophe, written by a European, obviously, but the information is, again, still good. You have one of my favorites, Black Majesty, okay? I have the pocket version and I have the original version that was written in like 1936. Again, when you read from Europeans, you kind of gotta cipher through their stuff because sometimes they'll have a little racist rhetoric in there just because the way they write. Other than that, the books and the stories in here are hilarious. They will have you rolling. I mean, you can see why they had plays about Henri Christophe in the early 1900s. Like, yes, they had plays at the Lafayette Theater, okay, in Harlem about Henri Christophe, because his legend just precedes him, man. Like, the stories about this man are totally hilarious. Tragically, though, his rule ended by him committing suicide. There was a mulatto uprising in the South, obviously by you know, the people who was under Alexander Pétion. He had a stroke. The story goes, and this is how the story goes, he went down to the church, the chapel that was right under Sanssouci, which actually burnt down recently. Crazy. He went down to the chapel, and he was talking to a priest. And the priest, I believe, did something that Henri Christophe didn't like, and so he smacked the priest. And then later on, he had a stroke a few days later, which kind of left him impaired. And when the uprising was taking place, he was paralyzed from, I believe, the neck or the waist down. And yes, excuse me, the waist down. And then eventually, he decided to take his own life. And the story goes, they carried his body up to the Citadel, where they then dropped it in sulfuric acid and melted his body down. But again, great story. Hopefully one day there's a movie that can come out about this brother. I mean, besides Dessalines, I don't think there's any other character or historic figure, you know, that is so vibrant like Henri Christophe. So one day maybe a movie can come out by the Haitian Revolution. One can only hope, because we know how Hollywood is. But you know, very good story, man. Very good story. Very something you definitely want to read up on. This brother was very intelligent. Well, family, hopefully you enjoyed that. Until next time, family, think black, stay black, love black, support black, and see you next time. Peace, 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 peace.